Buddy, my name is Luke Allen Terry. I am 30 years old. I am currently a graduate student pursuing my master's degree in education, and I am auditioning today for King of the Nerds. One thing that I am very passionate about and that I love, and that is both a hobby and somewhat of a vocation of mine, which I also believe is a very nerdy and geeky subject, is theater. Yes, I am a theater nerd. Musical theater nerd, play nerd, whatever it might be, I am a theater nerd. It is a very important and a very deep and personal thing that I love for many reasons. I'm a director, I'm an actor, a sound designer, sometimes a producer, and I've done a little bit of everything, whether it's backstage, taking tickets, running crew, pulling a curtain, or being on stage, just having a ball. These are just some of the shows that I have been involved with these programs, whether they are from college or whether they are from doing theater in the area where I live, which is the Denver metro area, specifically Arvada, Colorado. You can see these are all different shows that I feel I've been very fortunate to be a part of. Now, these scripts are just a fraction of the personal library I have because each of them are ones that I have read, I have done, or I have had an interest in because of the story that they tell. They tell a wonderful story that can be anything from good versus evil, romantic comedy, man versus nature, man versus self, or man versus God, whatever it might be. They are all just fascinating. They're long, they're short, they're big, they're small, they're cream, they're green. It doesn't matter. If it's a theater script, I want to read it, I want to absorb it, and I want to be able to talk about it. Because telling a good story is a very wonderfully expansive thing that I think all geeks can relate to. Because everything that they are geeky about, it's about the story aspect. And that's something that I'm very passionate about too. Speaking of stories, and about how so many stories are involved with all of geekdom, the same can be said about science. A good science theory is a good story, just like a good math proof is a good story. You have to have a beginning, middle, and an end, and you have to have a logical conclusion to say why you got to where you did and how you got to where you did. And the one story that is my geek d'etat, if you will, I don't speak French, so hopefully I'm saying that right, or using that right. If not, I'll get emails, I'll get responses, whatever. But, is Star Wars. I have grown up with Star Wars, as I'm sure millions of people have. But I myself have grown up with it, I have lived it, I have breathed it, I have dressed up for the movies. There is footage of me, which I don't have anymore because it's on a VHS tape, and I lost it 2 moves ago, of me and a friend of mine as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul, I was Darth Maul, doing the lightsaber duel from Phantom Menace after Qui-Gon Jinn is slayed. Pretty awesome, pretty epic, and pretty damn geeky. Star Wars is an important part of my life because I have everything that is within the realm of Star Wars. Everything from action figures, models. I gotta put this guy together, just got him not too long ago. But also Legos. And Lego play sets. No, that didn't fire right, but that's okay. But not just that, I also wear Star Wars where it's appropriate to show my true geek colors. And aside from also wearing Star Wars, I eat Star Wars too. I've had this lunchbox for a couple years now, and trust me, had I had it when I was younger, it would have never left my side, and I would still put my lunch in it. I still do put my lunch in it, as a matter of fact. So, I'm not just one of those casual Star Wars people, too, where I like all the action figures and just all the cool stuff that goes with it, like the hat or the lunchbox or the figures or whatnot. I also read Star Wars. This is first edition of the book, the paperback, of the Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn, the best Star Wars author that there is, in my opinion. I've read every single Star Wars book that has been put out, going from the novelizations of the first film up forward. I've yet to get to anything in the Knights of the Old Republic series, just because I haven't had the time, gotten around to it. And they keep putting out books in the expanded universe, whether it's the Hand of Thrawn trilogy, the Black Fleet Crisis, or the Darkness Swarm, or whatever it might be. It's just stuff that I keep getting forward and forward. And also, Star Wars books can make you cry. For instance, in Heir to the Empire, when Obi-Wan Kenobi said goodbye to Luke for the very last time, I wept. I cried, because Obi-Wan Kenobi is one of my heroes. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Indiana Jones are 2 of my biggest heroes because they are such good guys. They fight for what they believe in. They're upstanding. They're badasses, too, because they will mess with you if you mess with them, but they always look for a peaceful resolution. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the best mentor that there can be. I've had many Obi-Wans in my life, and I thank them. They know who they are. They are my Obi-Wans. But aside from Heir to the Empire, I also cried during Vector Prime. Those of you Star Wars peeps who know what I'm talking about, there's a part in that book where you will cry, because it is a very fitting moment for a very fitting character who goes out in a blaze of glory. No spoilers here, but someone does die. I also have lived Star Wars in the sense that I live vicariously through role-playing games. This one, specifically here, West End Games, the D6 system, revised and expanded edition of the Star Wars role-playing game. I have spent many, many nights as both a player and as a game master, leading characters through the Imperial ruins, as smugglers trying to get just one last cargo through an Imperial picket line to the rebels, or as a rebel sleeper agent who is trying to take down an Imperial stronghold, whatever it might be. Star Wars is something that I am increasingly more and more passionate about, just because there keeps getting more and more that keeps adding to the Star Wars universe, and it is wonderful. Not just Star Wars, because I also consider myself to be a jack of many geek trades, master of only one, which is Star Wars. Star Trek, Quantum Leap, love Quantum Leap, extremely underrated TV show, if you ask me. I also love any good science fiction that deals with time travel, so Back to the Future, The Terminator, anything related to Futurama where I'm my own grandpa, all Roswell That Ends Well, fantastic episode that keeps coming back. Anything with the Nebulonians, it's wonderful too. But also, I am a wonderfully huge fan of comic books, specifically Marvel. I'm a Marvel fanboy. Batman, Superman, they're all great. But going back to the Marvel comic books with the Avengers and the X-Men, the Thunderbolts, everything along those realms, it's just wonderful. There's so much rich storytelling that goes within it, and that again goes back to what I love about being a geek. There's all the rich stories that go with it. I'm a big fan of Star Trek, too. More so the original series than the Next Generation. Next Generation has its place, don't get me wrong, but the original set the tone. It's like the first Godfather film. The first Godfather film set the tone for the many consider superior Godfather Part 2. But there wouldn't be a Godfather Part 2 if there wasn't Godfather Part 1. Just like there wouldn't be any Star Trek if it wasn't for the original series with Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Uhura, Scotty, Chekhov, Sulu, everybody. I do have one gripe, speaking of Star Trek, with the new Star Trek movie Into Darkness. It was a fantastic science fiction, action, buddy comedy flick, but it wasn't a Star Trek movie. I'm sorry, Captain Kirk never says punch it. It's always engage. Abrams, you are making a precursor to the new Star Wars films, which I appreciate. I look forward to seeing what you do in 2015, but Into Darkness was not a Star Trek film. There, I said it. I expect hate mobs and lynching emails coming later. Again, Quantum Leap, as I said before, a horribly underrated science fiction series. It is wonderful. And if you have not watched it, I encourage that you do. I got Ziggy on my phone. I have a specific version of Ziggy, which I think is very helpful, and that is Ziggy's History. Just in case you end up on any specific day in history, like let's say, for instance, I leap to September 19th, 1979, what does the temporal forecast say? Well, it's processing all the historical events, and it's saying that, well, in 1979, on, say, the 19th, Daniel Brent, an English actress, was born. I don't even know who that is, but that's still fantastic to know. Or other things, such as there is a coup d'etat in the Central African Empire overthrows the Emperor Bosaka on the 20th of 1979. That's a day later after 19th. All these great historical events that, just in case you do leap, say, in Central Africa, you never know. So it's good to have that. And, of course, one thing that all geeks should not be without, and of course I myself should not be without either as a geek, which is why I love the iPhone, is this. Never leave home without it. I love my iPhone, by the way. Apple for the win. Now, why I would rock at King of the Nerds and why I think I'd be a good candidate. Again, I am a jack of many geek and nerd traits, but a master of only one. I am able to talk passionately about things that are related to many subjects that are of geekdom that I think many people can appreciate and many people can enjoy. So, for instance, I am able to talk passionately and emphatically and at lengths about subjects like cooking. Aside from cooking, I'm able to talk about generic science, your basics. I'm able to talk about anything from science, whatever it might be, so science in general, but not just also science, more geek topics such as video games, Tabletop gaming. Firefly, brown coats forever. Science fiction. Harry Potter and musical theater. Do you hear the wizards sing? I do. Comic books. Marvel for the win. Fury 7. It's also a reference of a classic movie. I'm sure many of you know what I'm talking about. But aside from that, everything, as I said before, all goes back to the one topic I love most, and that is Star Wars. I'll sit back down now that I have completely stripped for you. As I said, all things relate back to Star Wars, and that's the one thing that I am the most passionate about, and that's why I think I'd be a good candidate for King of the Nerds. Now, what I'm going to do here is I am going to leave y'all with a little bit of a geekgasm. And this geekgasm I want to dedicate to my two former collaborators, Mr. Oddball, Mr. Squill Bazooka. Word to both you guys for all your help. Here's a geekgasm for y'all. Step up and listen to this geek me. Boot up your iPod, steal the MP3. I ain't no gangster or pimpin' this. Take this lump of sugar, baby, you know you want it. So get down with this geek while I speak my bit, taking shots every time the crazy 88s get hit. I'll entertain you and make it worth it. I don't want you calling up with no curse you gadget. So put on your emotion lotion and come with me. It's my first time, so please go easy. Luck as foils in attack position. Yoda as a god, that ain't no sacrilege. The Holy Three, as I would call them. Greedo fires first. Oh man, that's dumb. But my knowledge in geek doesn't end in wars. Cause of my skills, I can open many doors. Just hand me that blue key and the level 5 access. I'll school you faster than Sauron with the Nexus. For instance, Skywalker first was Starkiller, best-selling album, Michael Jackson's a thriller. I've dipped my fingers in Star Trek, Galactica, Hogwarts, and Firefly. I got a ton of factoids, I'll throw them all at ya. When I'm done with you, you'll have to dive into some Bacta. Cleveland says I'm El Terrible. I can talk in Klingon if you don't believe me. Tuch bach pach, sich troch nan, tuch mak tik du much mochach. Spending many nights with dice in my hand, running through Dungeons and Dragons land, staying up till 4, raising every stat. Well, all my geeks say, I can get behind that. End of the world? WTF, mate. No wonder a geek can't get a date. Peace out.